Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Sim Racers Group Intermediate F4 Championship. This is round number 8 of this season, coming to you tonight from Oran Park. My name is Ron Mullins. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Kenan Miller. Mike Braun is our producer for tonight's broadcast. Well, Kenan, we're getting towards the end of this 12-race season here for the SRG F4 Championship. It's been a wacky ride up to this point. We've visited a whole bunch of racetracks, but today we head to one of the few tracks on the iRacing platform that isn't even around anymore. This track has been preserved as it was many moons ago. It was a gem of Australian motorsports that has sadly gone the way of the dodo bird, but despite the fact it's gone from real life, we're still expecting this sim race to be a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is really going to be quite a interesting circuit that we're here at. Being at Oran Park really makes me feel like race 2, but we were at Tsukuba. That was my first race of the season with the SMB network, and it's a very short track. It's a lot of blind corners. It's very high speed. I think this is going to really separate the best of the best and the worst of the worst, and what we're going to see out there today. It's going to take everything the drivers have to get around this track and do a full 20-minute race.
It's definitely a challenging one here at Oran Park. The configuration that we are running at the Grand Prix layout, as it's considered here on iRacing, 12 turns in all. Pretty much none of them are the same as ones that come before or after. 1.62 miles. Again, we were kind of talking before the start of this show how you look at the track layout and you expect this track to probably be like 3 miles, a little bit longer than that. No, this is a very short track. It's a punchy one running around here in Anger. So just feels like there is no break for these drivers, even in this practice session.
Yeah, the only break they're going to get is the straightaway. From there, there's not enough time to really relax or rest. You're going right into high-speed corners, uphills, downhills, over the bridge, and under a bridge. So it's really got a mix of everything. It's very much feels like a go-kart track from what we would think just looking at a track map.
And we were actually talking a little bit before the start of this show how if anyone's ever driven on some of the short versions of this track, I'm pretty sure those were added in specifically because iRacing was definitely teetering with the idea of adding go-karts into the service many moons ago. I remember doing some hot laps around some of the like kart tracks around here, which if you ever look at the iRacing track maps of this place on the sim, it is just some spaghetti nonsense heading off through the first sector of this lap. But the layout that we are running at still flows together quite nicely. This track in real life had some pretty storied history. As we said, it's sadly gone the way of the dodo bird. It's pretty expensive housing. It's a big neighborhood that they just built up in this area, knocking down the track. But it's still a wonderful ride, and it's going to play host to the 8th race of this season. Looking through the schedule, we've had some fantastic races up to this point. Suzuka to kick it all off, all the way back on March the 19th. And we've had to tracks like Tsukuba, Fuji, Sandown, Winton, Phillip Island. Went to Twin Ring Motegi last time at, or I guess as it's called, Mobility Resorts Motegi nowadays, both in the sim and in real life. And then Oran Park tonight. We are going to be returning to Fuji in 1 week's time before the series rocks up to Bathurst, Okayama, and returns to Suzuka running on the West layout to bring this season to a close here for season 2 of the Sim Racers Group Intermediate F4 Championship. Still in the midst of practice right now, so I think that's a pretty good time for us to maybe take a look at the championship point situations coming into the final 5 rounds of this hotly contested championship. We have seen some pretty quick drivers throughout, and one of them by a pretty significant margin has been Kalen Michaelwitz. He is your current championship leader in the Inter-Alien category, has 3 wins up to this point, one of them coming just 1 week ago at Twin Ring Motegi. He finds himself in the championship lead, 149 points on the board. Danush Parborgi, on the other hand, he's still pretty close though as well. So look at Parborgi in the number 23 car to maybe mount a challenge, which has 9 points separating those two competitors. Stephen Case, who picked up 2 wins earlier on in the season at Fuji and Sandown, currently rounds at your top 3 with Ope Depot slotted in 4th, Alex Velasco in 5th, Chris Eggert in 6th, and Skylar Vickroyd, the newcomer here to the Sim Racers Group World, rounds out your drivers classified in the Inter-Alien category. Here's how it stands in Inter 1, where Joshua Corn, despite the fact he's only grabbed 2 wins, they've come in the past 2 races. He's really turned up the wick as of late in the 037 car, leads that championship with 130 points on the board. 31 back is Jason Koch, your series admin, in the 422. Adrian Lopez, Tyrone De Silva, and Chris Wang round out to your top 5 as it stands presently in Inter 1. Gonna take a quick look to Inter 2, where Daniel Bujak has actually pulled in a pretty good season up to this point. He has 3 wins, those coming at the races at Sandown, Winton, and Motegi last time out. You can see him at the front of the point standings, 118 at the present moment. Adam Duval slotted in 2nd, Jose Navas Molina, Jason Trantham, and Igor Grunsky rounding out your top 5 in the Inter 2 category. Pretty close between the likes of Molina, Trantham, and Grunsky, and you can see the rest of the drivers there. A pretty hotly contested class, and you can see the amount of racers that have run in that category up to this point. But looking through those championship points, Kenan, that Inter-Alien championship battle is looking really hot, I should say, between Kellen Michaelwitz and Dinesh Parborji.
Yeah, last week at Motegi, Paborji, we remember he was the hard charger, gained 17 positions after just an absolutely miserable qualifying session. I don't even think he turned a lap last week in qualifying, ran back through the field. We remember Vic Roy and Stephen Case getting together, racing for the lead, really kept Paborji in the fight, because he was definitely in a dire spot to need a good run last week after the qualifying, and he kind of managed to luck out with the incidents that he turned out to be the best finisher and stays in the hunt for the championship.
Now, I think that's a good point to raise about Motegi being a rather twisty track, but we got another one here at Oran Park, and let's do a little bit of a lap guide with Dinesh Parborji in the 023 car, heading his way down that start-finish straightaway. This is the first turn, the kink. It's called the sweeper, and it is super tough trying to get that car set up to the right-hand side, hit the brakes, and nearly spin, heading off through turn number 2 of Coca-Cola Corner. Clearly not enough Coca-Cola being spilled on the tires of Paborji's race car, so we nearly had a sideways snap heading off through there. That's Shell Corner, turn number 3. Heading off through the Titan twisties of this lap, a small little flat app with some bumps to deal with, heading off through Champion Curve of turn number 4. Over the overpass now, coming out of turn number 5 through 6 right now. About to head our way off into the second half of the lap, as I like to call it, turn number 7 of Foster's Dip into turn 8. This is a tough corner. Momo Corner of turn number 9, blindly cresting that hill. Want to keep within that track limits. Here's a quick chicane, I should say, and it's gonna be real tough heading all through there. That's Recaro Corner of turn number 12, and you can see that's a pretty tough corner with no runoff area on the outside. If you spin off, bang, you've got a concrete barrier. You're in for a world of hurt. I was going to say this on that track guide, which, as you saw with lap times, just a tick over the minute barrier. Very quickly paced laps here at Oran Park. Pretty much had no time to get a word in edgewise in terms of any sort of color to sprinkle in throughout all that. The turn 10 and 11 chicane has the oddest corner name that I've ever stumbled across in my entire time of doing iRacing broadcasting. It is called, and I'm not making this up, or at least iRacing's making this up because I'm getting this based off their official track guide in Sim. It's called the O'Brien Aluminum Dogleg. I'm not sure about you, Kenan, but wow, that's definitely unique for a corner name.
Might have been a little bit of money changing hands, I think, to get a corner named like that one. So shout out to O'Brien's Aluminum. Hopefully they're still around, even though Oran Park isn't. But we're looking at top 8 drivers right now are all covered, with their best time being within 1 second. That's a good mix of mostly Inter Aliens, but there is some Inter 1 and Inter 2 drivers there at the top of the board. Practice getting ready to wind down. We'll see the checkered flag soon, but it's quick lap times and everybody's on top of each other, so I'm expecting a pretty competitive race.
Yeah, let's see how these drivers do in this qualifying session that we have coming up. To any of you who haven't tuned into this series before, we'll just quickly remind you as to how things are going to shake out for the rest of this evening's action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Coming up is going to be a 15-minute long open session. Now, an open session means that all these drivers will be on the track at the exact same time and at a 1.6-mile long racetrack with 12 turns in all. Gonna be a bit difficult to find some breathing room heading off through there. I think I've said this on broadcasts I've done in the past. It's gonna be feeling like the parking lot of a Walmart on Black Friday with a half price deal on televisions in this qualifying session we have coming up. And then they'll set the grid for a 20-minute long race that will immediately follow. Standing starts as well for this series as well, which is definitely going to be rather hectic with that run heading off through turn number 1 into turn 2. That section is going to be an absolute bottleneck for these drivers and be an absolute thorn in the side as well.
Yeah, we see everybody always rushes out. They want to try and get a good track position. We haven't seen it much in this series. A lot of the drivers, I think, like to burn off the fuel and stay out and run as many laps as they possibly can. I don't think you'll see guys try and break it up and get a couple laps and come back for fresh tires to seem to go back out again. That seemed to be the yearly strategy so far, no matter what class we've looked at. But Phillips Island wasn't too bad when you've got a bigger track. This track's so small, you're correct. It's going to be one over top of each other. The draft's not going to play an effect, but making sure you have clear track in front of you to do a good lap is the challenge.
I think this track is really going to be in the class of the likes of Tsukuba that we had earlier on and the Suzuka West race that we're going to have to round out this 12 race championship. That's going to be tough. I remember the Suzuka race earlier on for the season opener of this series. I was on the call with our producer Mike doing double duty, working the comms and the cams with me on that broadcast. And I remember that race being rather hectic and the qualifying being super tough as well. But Suzuka, the distance that you have between competitors on that racetrack feels like a vast yawning chasm compared to what we've got here at Oran Park. So fittingly, despite the fact this track was torn down in real life to make room for multi-million-dollar houses, real estate going to be a rather tough issue here at Oran Park today.
Yeah, they're going to be fighting for every inch that they can get. Track position, especially in this qualifying session, will be super important. The less cars you have to pass in the 20 minutes is only going to make it a little bit easier on your drive in the race. It's a very difficult track, and the way that you don't have any runoff, it's very natural. There is no paved runoffs to really take advantage of. They are lucky the final corner does give a little breathing room on the exit, but there's just nowhere to go if anything happens. It's a very tight track.
Yeah, and you brought up a fantastic point there, Kenan. Nowhere to run to, nowhere to hide when it comes to a sort of off-track situation that you may have at any point in this race coming up. It'll be tough for these competitors for sure, but hey, we got a 20-lap long race in front of us. These drivers don't get damage on their race car. Damage is turned off for these events, so not going to have to worry about any sort of suspension damage or wing damage or anything like that. Now, granted, if you do flip, that will be a bit difficult. You'll probably have to tow back the pit lane unless you can get some assistance of a driver going off the track in exactly the same fashion that you did and bumping your car to turn it back up the right way. Otherwise, though, you may be in for a world of hurt. And starting to see these drivers utilize the draft a lot, heading down that start-finish straightaway. You mentioned this earlier on, Kenan, talking about the fact that start-finish straightaway is basically the only opportunity these drivers to have a rest, as we see Joshua Oran nearly coming to blows with the driver right in front of him down into the braking zone through turn number 2. But that straightaway, it is going to be a premier drafting zone, a premier overtaking opportunity, and also going to be the spot where these drivers can finally have a breather.
Yeah, it's going to be the one moment they can kind of set up a really nice pass. The difficult part is the braking point doesn't really happen until you've entered the turn 1 sweeper, and it's not very much space if you're the outside car, so there's going to have to be a little bit of a give and take on the inside car and getting everybody through safely. You saw there on the previous lap, the draft that they're having in turn 1, while it does give you a good run to finish a lap, it's probably going to set you up for a poor lap if you're following a car the rest of the way. It is the one opportunity to gain speed, but with traffic in front of you, you're going to have a really tough time maximizing the lap time here.
And these drivers looking to get the best lap times that they can, but you can really just see based off the pole time that Kalen Michaelwitz has set a 104.223. That is not the best lap time in the world from Michaelwitz. In that practice session earlier on, he was tracking a 103.3. Granted, that was an hour-long session, so he had plenty of time to get a cooker of a lap time in, and certainly not as frantic in that practice session out on track as it will be in this qualifying session. But nonetheless, you can just see nearly a second slower, about 9/10 to be a bit more precise, between Michaelwitz's pace in practice versus qualifying. And that's just about the same case for everyone all throughout the field. One driver has improved is this man, Chris Wang, in the 114 car. In the practice session earlier on, set a 104.8, currently in qualifying, slotted in fifth at a 104.464. So that's a pretty good lap time from Wang. Let's see how he'll be able to improve on that lap time, about a quarter of a second between himself and your pole sitter of Kalen Michaelwitz. Danush Paborji still out there on the racetrack, just towed back to pit lane very briefly, but has rejoined the circuit. As we follow Skylar Vickroy, currently slotted in P4. Now, Skylar was pretty quick in that race at Motegi 1 week ago, got involved in a little bit of drama, though, heading down one of the straightaways, and did not get the result that he probably had in mind. But Vickroy's a driver I have experience commentating on in the past, and he is a very fast racer. So let's see how the Inter-Alien competitor will do. And right as I say that, Gannon, he goes right to the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, I was kind of sitting here waiting to see what he would put to the board. It looked like a really clean lap. He's really surprised everybody last week, joining the league and initially being an Inter 1, moved up in the very initial session he's in into the Inter. He's proven exactly why he needs to be in that Inter-Alien. He's got a lot of speed, and he's not afraid to put it to all these guys.
The Inter-Alien in that UFO has skyrocketed up to the leaderboard. That was cheesy. I apologize. Alex Velasco, he jumped up to the front as well. About a quarter of a second between himself and Vickroy. Still yet to dip below that 104 barrier. That was a cooker of a lap time, though, from Skylar Vickroy. Let's see if anyone will be able to challenge that time. Still about halfway to go in this qualifying session, so plenty of time left for these competitors to set better lap times. Christopher Wang is your current top qualified Inter 1 driver, as we're following Diego Posada, currently qualified in P14. He is third of the Inter 2 competitors, as Daniel Bujak looking to get his fourth win this season, second in a row. He won back-to-back races earlier on, and let's see how he'll do at Oran Park today. Currently slotted in 10th, just in front of Josh Leslie.
Yeah, Bujak really performs well a little bit on the tighter tracks. I think he has a knack for being able to turn in, trust the car, and he's been getting progressively faster throughout the entire season. It's been really nice seeing the way everybody improves. And there we see Stephen Case just put up second fastest time, only 0.055 off of the pole. So he's finally put together some good laps. I was kind of shocked he was sitting at 8th or 9th. Didn't look like he was getting a good clean lap in, but seems like he's gone out there and found a good line too. So we're starting to see fast times come in.
And Stephen Case looking to return to victory lane. The last win that he got this season was at Sandown, and that's a rather technical track as well. It's short, it's rough riding heading around that track. So let's see if this man will be able to get his way back up to the front of the field, the driver of the 243 car. Also looking to propel himself into that championship discussion in that Inter-Alien category. And look at him pushing the limits, getting the most amount of his car, and stepping over the mark a little bit, heading out of turn number 9. Turn 9 and turn 11 right towards the end of this track. You got those blind crests coming out of it, and you basically have to turn in and hope to God the track is still there when you crest that hill.
Yeah, you do. It's all trust in the car at this track. When you can't see the apex, you just have to trust on your marker. You have to turn in and rely that it's going to put you right where you need to be. This track isn't so terrible with the curbs if you do overrun them, but especially in a qualifying session, off track like that will scrap your lap time and you'll have to reset. I do want to notice I was actually just green, and while the reports showed rain was unlikely, we do have a little bit of precipitation creeping around the racetrack from the southeast or southwest, and right now it's showing we may end up seeing some rain possibly by the start of this race. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see if the weather actually does play a part in how this race goes.
And the Thank you very much, meteorologist Kenan, on this broadcast. I wasn't even looking at the weather. I was thinking, yeah, it's Australia. It's just gonna be a cooker. We're not gonna have to worry about rain. Oh, the contrary. You can see. Oh, well, I can see at the very least. We can see as the commentators that small little bit of light blue, aqua teal, whatever color you want to call it, encroaching upon this racetrack. The relative humidity currently at 67 as it stands presently. So these drivers, I wouldn't necessarily they've reached the point where they're driving through a bowl of soup, but it is still a little bit thicker than it once was. And the track temperature is currently tracking around 75 degrees Fahrenheit as well. If we do get some rain, though, we're going to start to see some of those numbers get oh so screwy, and these drivers get oh so sad if they were expecting a dry race. Again, these Formula 4 cars on iRacing do have rain compatibility. I believe they were part of the first batch of race cars that had rain compatibility as well, as we just saw a huge sideways snap from Lloyd Conway coming out of turn number 9. That was a fantastic snap from him and a well-held save, as that's a driver spinning coming out of the final corner. And Stephen Case has jumped his way up into that provisional pole now to 103.8.
Yeah, Lloyd Conway, he was really letting everything hang out on that lap. He's sitting 17th right now on the board, and I think he knows he's running out of time. He's got to put together a little bit of a clean lap, and he's really showing us how you get there.
And showing how to set a good time around this track. Mastery of this racetrack requires a lot. It requires bravery to just lick the stamp and send it heading off into the braking zone through turn number 2, through that O'Brien aluminum dogleg. I can't even imagine how that's going to be on the call for the opening lap. Holy cow. But hanging out of turn number 11, heading out of turn number 9, and heading into turn number 2, it requires so much bravery to try and just hold that line there. These F4 cars have a lot of experience covering them on the iRacing platform. I can assure you, these cars are basically like go-karts with some plexiglass wings on them. They really just drive around like a go-kart. You have to get a little bit sideways heading off through some of these corners. If that rear end is not a little bit angry with you at the end of a stint, chances are you're not driving quick enough.
Yeah, these cars are, well, they do have a little bit of a aerodynamic advantage to them as some of the generation below them cars, say a Formula Ford, Formula V, where there are no wings at all. It's very minimal to how it helps them, and these cars do create quite a bit of power, so it keeps the cars loose. They're sliding a lot. It's they're really quite a handful to drive. It's a blast to drive in iRacing as well. If you've never driven it, I'd certainly recommend it.
Yeah, and I say this as a guy who's definitely a bit biased towards Formula cars because they're usually where I feel the quickest. It's still not a very good comparison. I'm slowing no matter what you put me in. Very good reason why I'm behind the microphone instead of behind the wheel. But the Formula cars, I mean, for my karting background, I just absolutely adore driving in single-seaters. And these F4 cars are super fun, but can also be super frustrating if you have a series of mistakes. I have been on both sides of that coin. I will put my hands up and fully admit it. Getting to the end of this qualifying session, though, with about 2.5 minutes left on the board, Stephen Case still at the top of the scoring pile, setting that 103.654. That's a really good lap time from Case. And let's see if anyone will have a challenge. Skylar Vickeroy still down pit lane, looking to grab a win in his second race here in the SRG world. Dinesh Parborji, on the other hand, he's definitely a veteran of these SRG F4 races, still at their in qualifying, and although it wasn't a quick lap time from him last time by, he only has to gain about 3.5 tenths of a second to jump up to that provisional pole. So let's see if Paborji will be able to get the move done.
Yeah, Paborji's still out there trying. It looks like maybe Stephen Case and Skylar Vickeroy are satisfied with their lap, that they've gotten as much as they can get out of it. We're see them still sitting on pit lane. They'd have to get back out on track in the next 20 seconds if they want to make sure they start their flying lap while the green flag is still out. But Borgi, he's right up there. He's having a much better qualifying run than last week. He's putting together clean laps. He's right there with them, so I think he'll feel happy if he does only come away with the third.
And we're definitely at the point of this season where the mindset of just spinning it or winning it is should probably be leaving these drivers. It's good to go for all out glory, but at the same time, if you are the likes of Danush Paborji or Kayla Michaelitz, you should probably think about just making it to the checkered flag. To finish first you have to finish. I've read that in a fortune cookie before, and I have a feeling that will definitely ring true here at Oran Park. We've talked about the challenges of how this is going to be if this race is dry. We don't know if this race is going to be dry. That weather radar does not look good, but that looks good from Boojak. Holy cow, jumping up to third as an Inter 2 driver.
Yeah, that's an incredible lap that we got to catch the end of there. And third on the board, he jumped about 10 spots with that lap. And, you know, I was actually just looking at the board and going to bring up, it looked like Jose had taken the lead in the Inter 2 group in qualifying. And Boojak just blows them out of the water almost a whole second faster than Navas on that flying lap. He's got the field covered by a second in his class, and that's excellent for him. Puts a great gap going into the race between him and his in-class competitors.
That is a brilliant result from Boojak. And a reminder to anyone who hasn't tuned into this series before, I believe the drivers are scored based off their overall finishing position, unless I am mistaken. So that is going to be pretty good from Boojak. That's actually, we're hearing from our producer, Mr. Mike Braun, that these drivers are scored based off of where they finish in class, if my ears were not deceiving me. So it should be reminded to anyone who hasn't tuned into this series before, you usually catch Mr. J.R. Gregory on these shows after working, I think the last time I had a Wednesday night off and I wasn't sick was probably back in like early August. So I'm usually not on these shows, just a friendly reminder. So if anyone wants to yell at me, you have free reign to do that. I will totally understand. It'll remind me of my middle school days. But anyways, before we unearth any of my schooling career stories, let's switch our attention to this race coming up. The checkered flag is down this qualifying session, and it has been for the past minute and 15 seconds. Only a couple more drivers left across that line. I believe the last will be the 777. But here we go, Ken, and that rain is starting to come down right at the end of this qualifying session. We haven't even switched over to the race session, and it's already coming down.
Yeah, we're already seeing drops all over the front stretch here. It looks like it's starting to slowly cover the track as it's going to move from essentially the last corner of the racetrack and cover across. So I think we're looking for a wet race. Hopefully all the teams remember to bring their race tires and the rain tires and have them ready to go. But this could make for quite an interesting race, and nothing the drivers have been practicing for is to drive it while it's wet. So we may be in for quite a show here as the track now, looking at the map, is fully covered in rain. I think we're going to see rain the entire time.
And we are officially into this race session. So let's take a look at how things are going to line up for the start. It'll be Stephen Case and Skylar Vickroy starting this race at the front of the field. Daniel Boojak, though, that is a brilliant performance from him in the number 3 car. He'll start this race in P3. Actually, no, he's in the 36, starting in third. You get what I was saying. Danush Parborji starts this race in P4. We have Kayla Michaelitz in 5th. Ope Oladipo will start this race in P6. Alex Velasco in P7. Tyrone Da Silva in 8th. Chris Eggert in 9th. We have Joshua Corn in P10. We have Justin Snyder right behind in 11th. Christopher Wang rounding out our 6th row. Jose Navas will start this race in lucky number P13. Starting right behind in 14th will be series admin Jason Kocher. Josh Leslie in the number 15 car will start right behind in 15th. Igor Grunsky will start in 16th. Lloyd Conway will start in P17. We have Adrian Lopez starting in P18. Right behind, it's Daniel Posada in 19th. Dan Swanbeck will start in 20th. Sarub Vase will start this race in 21st. Aaron Van Wagner will start right alongside in 22nd, rounding out your 11th row. Greg Meyer will start in 23rd. Adam Duvall in 24th. Manish, we'll call him Manish, will start this race in P25. Kulkaran Dillon will start this race in P26. Ken Glasser will start in 27th. Michael Huyen will start this race in 28th. And that will round out our 28 cars set to grab the green flag here in a couple of moments' time. Standing start for these drivers in this series as well. To anyone who hasn't tuned in before, the track is moist. That was an odd phrase. iRacing marking it as very lightly wet. The rain has only just started to come down, but we got a 20-minute long race in front of us. So who knows how it's going to be right towards the end. These drivers building their revs, dumping the clutches. The green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way as these drivers skate around the track and try and build that speed at the very beginning of this race. It is a flyer of a start for Stephen Case, and look at that four-wide contact being made down into turn number 1. This is going to be a real tough start for these competitors. That track is just wet enough to be tough on dries, but just dry enough to be too hard to manage on wets either. That was a brilliant start, though, from our pole man, the driver of the 243 of Stephen Case. It was also a fantastic start for this man, Ope Oladipo, in the 234 car. He's already made his way up to second.
Yeah, Oladipo had a great start. Paborgi was very lucky. He's not off in the grass right now. Had a great correction after getting touched from behind. But Ope Oladipo, he's tearing it up right now on this wet track. We see the spray coming off the tires. There's got to be quite a bit of moisture on the ground, and he's sticking right with them. He may be one to look out for. Somebody, I couldn't quite catch his impact of the tires there, but they should be able to keep going as it is a damage-free race that we'll deal with. So cost you time when you go off the track and make contact, but they should get back going safely.
I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, yeah, you can see multiple cars coming to blows. That was heading off through into turn number 9, unless I'm very much mistaken. I think it may have been either the 4 of Jose Navas, or potentially, I think we were a little bit farther up to the front, so it may have been the 023 of Danush Paborgi who went off the track, heading off through turn number 9, the mid-sector of the track. Super tough to try and nail down, but you can see the rooster tails coming off the back of these race cars, already 1 lap down, so a lot more racing action left to go. The rain is still falling down all around this racetrack. In fact, I think we may potentially... This may be the calm before the storm. I think there's some even worse weather heading this track's way in the not too far off future as well. And as we see these drivers, and you can see some side-by-side racing going on, that's Tyrone De Silva getting a move done on Skylar Vicroy. Can see the difference between those two cars just riding on board with them. Tyrone De Silva in that 480 car started this race on dry tires. Skylar Vicroy, on the other hand, started this race on wets. He's one of few drivers who decided to go for those grooved wet tires at the start of this race. And you can see as we ride on board with him, currently slotted in 7th. I mentioned this a couple of moments ago, Kenan. We're in that bad window where the wet tires are not good enough for conditions like this. The track's too dry for wets and really too wet for dries.
Yeah, it's a very difficult decision going into the start of the race because you know it isn't, but you don't want to make a pit stop. As we see, Vicroy is off wide. Doesn't make any contact with anything. It looks like he'll get going, but he's going to drop several positions there, now down to 10th place. But back to the point with the rain, if you start on dries, you may be quicker. Looking at the radar, though, the last 10 minutes of the race is not going to be very enjoyable, and the track will only get wetter and wetter. So it's really a late race strategy of saving the pit stop in such a short sprint race. You don't have time to pit and change tires if conditions change. That you have to hope it kind of goes your way by the end. And you see cars are slipping out, they're spinning. It's not a perfectly safe track there.
I think there may have been a moment for Christopher Eggert. He's dropping down the running order. He may have just decided to call it a day. Yeah, you can see him dropping down now outside the top 20. Something's going on with him. And as you can see now on the wonderful graphics that we've got here on slow motion broadcasting, can see the tires who are drivers who are running on wet tires and those who are running on dries. As we take a look at a moment to see that 222 of Eggert, that was a spin heading down into turn number 7 of Foster's Dip. And before that car even came to a stop, he decided to alt F4 out of the race, as Paborgi has had a spin down to turn number 2.
Yeah, it looks like he just kind of lost it all on his own, maybe a little harder braking. You see the sun's kind of showing itself for a little bit of a moment. Maybe the driver thinking they can push a little more than the track's willing to give them right now. And they're side by side, as we can see, Paborgi and I believe is that Conway he's trying to get by? Or Joshua Corman, so he's in a race for 7th place, and Joshua Corman's trying to take that over right now. Looks like he may get away pretty cleanly, though.
And one driver who is just Taken off like a stabbed rat is your race leader of Stephen Case. You can see him now building up that gap to 1.7 seconds, heading down that start-finish straightaway off into turn number 1 and 2. So as he sets a fast lap of the race last time by as well to 108.6, he's really been finding grip where no one else has. You can see him running off the line, even running off into some of the gravel that has been dragged onto this racetrack in this race meeting thus far here. He's finding pace. He is finding good lap time after good lap time. Just going through the lap times you've set thus far. Obviously, first lap a bit of an exception because of the standing start. So we'll start on lap 2. Set a 110.8, followed by a 110.3, and last time by set a 108.6. So Stephen Case finding some pretty good grip out there compared to his competitors. And we are also in that small little pocket where the track isn't being affected by rain for now. Keyword being for now.
Yeah, we'll have to see whether the rain does come back and pick up. The spray has certainly gotten a lot tighter as Manish Shirshkumar makes a little contact there on his way through. But the lap times, you can tell we're talking about them running. They were doing 103s, 104s in practice and qualifying. So there's definitely slowed down the pace to keep the track or the car underneath them on the track. And we'll have to see whether that improves or doesn't improve and whether anybody will make a run for Stephen Case late in the race.
As we continue to see these drivers pace around this track, it should be noted that second week in a row, second falling anvil in a row for Skylar Vickeroy. He's dropped out of the session. Not sure whether he got involved in some sort of on-track extracurricular drama and just decided to call it a day or what, but nonetheless, he is going to be out of it here today. Adrian Lopez, who actually won the opening race of the season at Suzuka, not only in that Inter 1 category, but overall as well, currently finds himself in 23rd. He is exiting pit road right now, ran into some difficulties, probably deciding to put some dry tires on that race car. These drivers who took that wet gamble, I just don't think the track was wet enough. iRacing marked it as very lightly wet at the drop of the green flag, which if it was slightly wetter than that, I think they would have been in the clear, but it's just dry enough whereby those tires overheated like they were stored in a closet in the 7th circle of hell.
Yeah, the track just didn't quite get wet enough. It's just very tough on the time, and they're kind of, I guess, in a way, lucky getting the rain in before the mess of the rain does come behind, because it'll be pouring pretty much the rest of the day here, I believe. But yeah, you make the risk, you get on the wet tires, and it doesn't work out your way. It does kind of ruin your race. So you see the top 13 all on dry tires. That's certainly working out for them, and the wet tire choices are still in the back, which is kind of just showing the difference of the track condition at the moment.
And speaking of the track conditions, as we get the graphic up there, you can see pretty cold when it comes to track temperatures as it stands presently. 63 degrees Fahrenheit compared to 69 nice as the ambient temperature. So that's looking pretty cold at the present moment. These tires, as much as we're talking about the wet versus dry discussion, also have to just think about how cold these tires probably are running around here. Granted, they do get a bit of a pummeling here at Oran Park, as we may have a fight going on involving Kalen Michaelwitz and Ope Oladipo. He had a dream start in the 234 car, but has since dropped back. Let's see if he'll get a move done to jump his way up into the final podium spot just at the fifth lap of the race last time by, looking for a move down the inside off into turn number 1. Now into 2, goes for the dive, and contact being made. That could have ended an absolute disaster, but they make it through clean, virtually by the skin of their teeth. And look at that, a little bit farther up the road, dealing with some lap traffic and all this situation. Actually, no, that's not lap traffic. I believe that's actually Alex Velasco running in second presently. There's a lap traffic that I had in mind, and look at that. That's Kayla Michaelwitz using that lap car as a bit of a pick to finally withstand that challenge from Oladipo.
Yeah, the lap car was able to create a little separation there. You can see Oladipo, he was really pushing the braking limits quite hard there, even trying to get the pass done on the outside. So I think he sees that he's got a little more speed than maybe the 2 cars in front now, as conditions are starting to set in. You can see the rain sort of picked up and the spray's a little tougher, whether he's finding himself to have a little more speed. And it looks like Velasco is out at the wall on the final corner. That's going to slow him down. I think Oladipo may be able to take a run and get them both.
Yeah, I think he's going to try and go for it, but Michael's having a better exit coming out of that final corner onto that start finish straight away. But Michael's is going to get stuck behind Velasco. Let's see how this is all going to shake out. Look at that. Switches from the inside to the outside, but he spins off the track. Oladipo tried to get that 2-for-1 deal heading off through turns number 2 and right before that at turn number 1, but it's not going to work out. Instead of picking up 2 spots, he just picks up some more gravel on his tires. Tough moment for Oladipo.
Yeah, that was a real hero or zero moment there, getting by on the inside of Mikowicz and then trying to take Velasco on the outside, going through the sweeper that just a little too fast and the track's just a little too wet to get the car slowed down like that. Lose the rear end behind you. You see, I think he just lost the rear end again going into the dipper.
Take a replay of something that happened right behind him. That was Greg Meyer in the 8 car spinning. That's heading off through the very twisty and technical opening sector of this lap through shell corner of turn number 3. 3 and 4 super tough to try and nail down as we take a look at a moment involving Diego Posada in the 44 car, and that was him coming to blows with the 7, I believe it was, of Dan Swanbeck. So that was an unfortunate moment for those two heading off through the mid sector of this circuit. In all of that, it's kind of caused that battle for the final podium spot to cool off a bit, involving Velasco, Michaelwitz, and Oladipo, as we continue to see these drivers run into these off-track moments. I think the rain has picked up yet again. It is starting to come down, as look at that. That's Manish Suresh Kumar, so that's him having a moment heading off through the final corner, doing a bit of a Ross Chastain impression, I think, while running it through the final turn.
Yeah, I think they're used to a breaking point in the track's getting slicker and slicker. They're going to have to start backing everything down even more. I think it's definitely getting a little more wet and dark colored on the track than what we saw at the start of the race. So, see Suresh Kumar hitting the outside. I saw Paborgi was off track there for just a moment, and he's now back on. The track's definitely slick. It's definitely wet. De Silva's still hanging on all right to maybe make a run for the 3rd place position. With the track being wet, who knows if the top 3 have any mistakes in them, as we're looking at about 8-9 minutes left in this race.
See another moment for Oladipo. That was heading off coming out of turn number 3. So right after we saw that 8 car who was running behind him have a spin, it's going to be a spin for the driver who at one point was briefly slotted in P2 before spinning off the track in spectacular fashion down into turn number 2. Tyrone De Silva has come down pit lane from the lead in Inter 1 as Stephen Case has had a moment at the front of the field. You can see, oh, that's a sideways snap heading down into turn number 2. And in all of that, I think he may have actually lost the race lead to Velasco. Yes, he has. So Velasco now into P1. Stephen Case dropping down after that mistake.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he can throw out the rope and pull Velasco back in. There's not much time left in the race to do so, but he just a little instance of getting in a little too slick. He did a really good job of managing the race car to not go off or do anything any worse, but he's going to have his hands full trying to chase Velasco back down and get his lead back.
So that is
a lot of cars here.
Who is that who just knocked the... someone just hit the inside pit wall, at least from my perspective. That's Aaron Van Wagner. I think he may have gassed it up a bit too much coming out of the pits. I think he's put dry tires on that race car. He may have been one of the few wet runners that he's had to tow, and off into the dirt he goes. And I think he decided to call it a day. I will check iRacing to see whether he has completely left. I think he may have. So that is Aaron Van Wagner calling it a day here at Oran Park.
Yeah, I think his race is certainly done as he'd sort of set off into the sunset, it looked like there. But Stephen Case has actually gained about 7/10 back on Velasco in the last lap. So he's certainly making a push to it, and the track's getting slicker and slicker. I believe it's still considered lightly wet at the moment, but you can see the rain has definitely made an effect in the last 4 or 5 laps.
As we take a moment to see Jason Kocher in a moment that he may have had in the 422 car. Let's see what happens here. Oh boy, let me try that one again. Let's see what happened to the series admin. I sound like a cattle auctioneer there for a second. heading his way off into turn number 2, and looks like he's just about fine there. So I think he may have gotten a move done through the spray as he went down that start finish straight away off into 1 and 2. Velasco is still your race leader. However, he's lost out on a bit of ground. Stephen Case has caught up to him ever so slightly. Last time by, looking at the pace of Case, that was a terrible pun. I apologize. He was about a second, 1.2 seconds, in fact, quicker than Velasco last time by. So as much as he may have been down after that mistake down into turn number 2, Stephen Case is not out of it.
No, he certainly isn't. He's definitely making a push. We're looking at, we were talking about minute 8 lap times. We're now talking about 10 to a minute 12 lap times throughout the field, even some 13s and 14s. So there's definitely been a lot. And Velasco, the leader, spun out. The leader spun out off into what turn are we looking at there? I believe that's turn 7.
9.
Turn 9. He backs it into the wall. Is going to give up the lead to Stephen Case, and he's now back underway. But that's just absolutely dramatic. Just losing it under braking, it looks like, and just too much input in the wheel, too slick of a track, and the rear end goes right from under him.
And Stephen Case going to be motoring past him to take the race lead yet again. He now has a 7.5 second gap to himself and Kalen Mikowitz. Now has a battle in his hands with himself and Velasco. That will be a battle for the final podium spots. And here's a driver running just outside of the overall podium, our P4 runner of Lloyd Conway in the 77 car. Now talk about a good race for him. He's up 13 spots from where he started in this race. I say that knowing fully well that I probably just jinxed him, and it's going to be getting struck by an asteroid in about 5 seconds time. But this is looking very good for your current Inter 2 leader. Now I'm gonna have to go back and see how some of the previous races have worked out thus far this season, but I believe this will be the first time that your Inter 2 winner will outrun the Inter 1 winner if things stay this way between now and the end of this race, coming up in a tick over 4 minutes time. There's your Inter 1 leader of Joshua Oran. This will be his 3rd win in a row if he can hang on, really staking claim on that championship lead in that category. But Lloyd Conway yet to grab a win thus far, and talk about perseverance. A P4 finish overall and your first win of the season in your category at a racetrack like this in conditions like this, that would be a standout performance for the 77.
Yes, it would. It'd be by far and away the best race he's had all season. 10th place in points in the Inter 2 group. He's been very much a mid-pack runner through many of the races. He's put together some nice solid finishes. I believe he was in 6th last week, but he's definitely shown a lot of improvement, and you see it's really paying off for him now, running 4th overall.
Hearing from Tyler Hagan in the YouTube chat, who's usually one of the series, one of the drivers in this series, not running here tonight. Apparently, looking through earlier on, I think maybe some technical issues that he's battling with at the present moment. But letting us know that Lloyd's a Brit and he's got some real-world practice driving in the rain. See, I've made the joke in the past about British racing drivers just having a lot of experience in the rain because it's the UK, it's always cold and rainy there. But, I did not make that joke this time on this show. So for the first time in my entire time doing iRacing broadcasting, I have not offended the people in the UK, and I plan to keep it that way between now and the end of this.
Yeah, here we have Velasco and Mikowitz racing each other for P2. See if maybe the podium finishing order shakes up just a little bit, going down into turn 1 side by side. We'll see if they meet, and it does look like Velasco's going to get by clear and safe through the traffic, but Velasco's trying to make up ground, and he's not going to have enough time to get back up to Stephen Case, but he can at least maximize and get 2nd place on the podium.
And this is still a battle with a lot of significance for these competitors. We think about the championship point situation coming into this race and how close it was in the inter-alien category, with Kalen Mikowitz in front of Danush Baborji by just 9 points. Stephen Case a little bit farther back. He entered this race about 40 behind Kalen Mikowitz in that inter-alien category. But this is still going to be a very good points haul for the driver slotted in that final podium spot. if the Triple Eight car of Kayla Michaelwitz can just hang on, this will be a very good way to set himself up heading into the final 4 races of this 12-round season. Stephen Case still on track for a pretty dominating win, but last time by, he lost out on a boatload of time, set a 1 minute 12.1 as Velasco was in the 109.4s. So he may not be entirely out of the woods as much as I think he is potentially. I think it was borderline as to whether or not he took the white flag last time by or not. Stephen Case, if he has a big mistake, he may end up tripping up, and who knows? We may end up seeing Alex Velasco grab the win at the end of all this.
Yeah, I don't see anything to report that would have suggested he went off track or anything. So whether he's maybe slowed up the pace a little bit, taking it a little more safer, he knows he's built up a lead. A mistake would throw it all away for everything he's worked for today. So I think maybe he's backed it down. He knows how much he can give to let Velasco get back and still be able to keep his car under control and take the checkered flag.
I believe Stephen Case will be doing it this time by, maybe potentially just slowing down a bit to think, you know what, I don't want extra laps in this race. I just want to end it as quickly as I can, as Stephen Case comes out of the final corner onto that start-finish straightaway. It's his first win in quite some time in this season, but it's his third win. Stephen Case is victorious here at Oran Park. Alex Velasco is going to finish about 2.8 seconds back in a second. Kayla Michaelwitz running at your overall podium in third. It's going to be a dogfight, though, between these two, Danush Paborji and Lloyd Conway. They're giving us a monumental battle right towards the end of this race. Paborji getting a brilliant move done, heading off into the turn at 10 and 11 chicane. Don't believe Conway is going to have a good enough run coming out of that final corner to challenge him. It'll still be the Inter 2 win and his first win this season for Conway, as that's Josh Corwin spinning from the race lead in Inter 1, and that'll allow Jason Kocher, the series admin in the 422 car. Don't think he was expecting this. That's a spin from the 41, but Kocher, in a dramatic series of events, going to grab the Inter 1 win at the end of it all. Holy cow.
Wow, that was a pretty thrilling finish there. We'll have to go back and check the replay. I'm sure the wet weather had something to do with Corwin getting around, but that is quite an unsuspected finish there for the Inter 2 winner today. Yeah, he just loses the rear end right over the bump, a little wet, and unfortunately wasn't able to bring it back home on the final lap.
And that is going to be a huge kick in the shins for Joshua Corwin. But hey, he entered this race in the midst of a 2-race win streak, so I don't think he's going to be too upset about how things have shooken out for him thus far. So really not too much to complain. Probably 3 wins would have been nice in a row, but hey, he'll still take 2 wins back to back, man. Not able to spit my words out here when it comes to Joshua Corwin and that spinning out right towards the end of the race. Here, those are your qualifying results. I was about to say, Daniel Bujak, he dropped down like a rock in that race that we had a few moments ago, but instead, it's a different Inter 2 driver finishing up towards the front. More on him in a couple of moments' time. But here are your results. Stephen Case grabs the win when everything is said and done. Alex Velasco finishes in P2 with Kayla Michaelwitz, your championship leader, coming into this race, finishing in third, and more importantly, finishing in front of his championship rival, Danush Paborji, yet again. Those two round at your top 4. Lloyd Conway rounds at your top 5, winning it in the Inter 2 category. So well done to the driver, the number 77. It's Ope Oladipo finishing in P6. Jason Kocher wins it in the Inter 1 category with a shocking last lap turn of events, with Joshua Corwin finishing right behind after a heartbreaking spin right at the very end. We have Josh Leslie finishing this race in 9th, with Dan Swanbeck rounding out our top 10.
Yeah, it was a pretty good finish there all around. I mean, it was a wild, wacky race. We had a lot of spins. The weather certainly played a big role. I think it's kind of funny when you do all the practice and everything's dry and it seems all normal, and then the race time comes and it's just a whole curveball's been thrown at you. And Paborji really made a massive effort to get the extra point by getting by Conway, and in a way it worked out where he got the extra point. It didn't really affect Conway's win or Conway's points as well in class. So that was quite the stir there on the final lap. We had a little drama thing. It was nice to see. It was a really good race.
And that was a pretty fun one. And honestly, in all of that, despite the rain coming down from the drop of the green flag pretty much all the way through to the fall of the checkered, the track didn't get very wet. So it was just it was an old school rain race where these drivers had to dance around on dries and just kind of keep their fingers crossed that they were able to keep it on the road. We do have some interviews though. I have a chance to have a chat with some of these drivers. I believe we were set to have a chat with Skylar Vickroy, but after his unfortunate race here at Oran Park, not sure if we'll get the opportunity to have a chat with him. But the first driver that I think we'll be able to get here into the booth is going to be Josh Leslie, joining us now in the commentary booth. Hey, he had a pretty fun one up to this point, up 6 spots, finished in ninth, and I'll drag him in to have a quick little chat with us right towards the end of this broadcast. Josh, welcome into the commentary booth and well done on our P9 result here at Oran Park. How about you talk us through that race?
Yeah, it was kind of scary in the rain, because this is only my second race in the rain. Uh, yeah, I was sliding around, almost spun, but I managed to bring it home. Now, at the end, I was just saying, just bring it home, Josh.
Yeah, I want to ask you about your mindset in that race that we just had. I noted right as we were going through the results how this track never got to the point where the wet tires were the good call. So it was just put on some dries and really just tough it out until the end. So, how was it trying to manage your mindset in this race?
Yeah, I mean, I think I gained confidence seeing that I became ninth near the beginning. Like, I lost so many positions because I was too scared of the rain. So I think, and it was hard to manage the dries near the end because it started raining much heavier. So, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a tough one here at Oran Park, but hey, you still toughed it out, put in a pretty good performance at the end. P9, one of the final spots inside the top 10. Sure, you're not going to be complaining about that one bit. We've got another race coming up, though, in 1 week's time here from the Sim Racers Group Series. That being at Fuji, had that race earlier on in the season for race number 3. So, what are your thoughts heading to that track in 1 week's time?
Yeah, I like that track a lot. I mean, the when I on race 3, I think I did pretty good, but I got a disqualification. But this time, I think I can perform really well because now I know the track, and yeah.
I can imagine you'll be feeling confident come time for the next race of this season at Fuji. One more question, though, Josh, before we fully wrap this interview up. I want to ask you about what your thoughts are being a part of this Sim Racers Group community.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I found it out by talking to Varun at K1 Speed. So he kind of introduced me to this, and it was like a whole new world because I only had my Logitech at my home. So this was an amazing discovery for me.
It's always good to be a part of a pretty fantastic community. And on the subject of getting started at indoor go kart tracks, my kind of karting career started at a track which got turned into a K1 speed a couple of years ago. So it's funny the sort of connections you can make driving some indoor electric go kart tracks. But hey, thank you so much for joining us here in the commentary booth, Josh. And before we let you go and celebrate this result at the end of this race here at Oran Park, is there anybody you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, I'd love to thank my dad for bringing me here every week and supporting me, as well as my mom. And I would like to thank Varun Balaji for introducing me to this amazing sport.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us here in the commentary booth. Josh Lezier, P9 finisher at the end of this race. Well done, and we're excited to see you back out on the track at Fuji in 1 week's time.
Yeah, thank you.
And that right there was Josh Leslie joining us here in the commentary booth. We also got Ken Glasser up there in the interview waiting area, a driver who competes in these events at the Sim Racers Group HQ, a former Formula Ford racer in real life as well. And Kenan, I will let you have the chance to have a chat with Ken at the end of this race.
Hey Ken, how's it going? This is Ken Miller up in the SMB broadcasting booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
Yeah. Had a little bit of a tough run, P19 overall today. Obviously, the weather was very much a factor. How would you describe the way your day went? Anything you got out of it?
Well, it was a challenge, an effort to hang on and try and keep it on the track, and I did pretty good most of the time. But there were some moments.
How do you feel the car handled? We noticed a lot of drivers still chose to stay on the dry tires, even though it was starting to rain. The track was only considered lightly wet.
You know,
How was it on them?
I was actually pretty surprised. It was doing better than I thought. And other than this last corner as you come down the hill, that that one, it's just the traction there. Just it was bad. You know, you lose the back end, and the car would want to wash to the wall, and that was a challenge. But I had a good time out there. I know I saw a lot of people come past me once or twice as they lost. They had spins in front of me, and then got back going again. But you know, that's the part of being in the back. You get to see all of that.
Yeah, we saw it a lot from here too. There's cars slipping everywhere. I don't think there was a single corner out there that didn't have a car go off at it. So it was definitely very wet. And we did talk about it before we brought you into the booth. You are actually racing in the SRG room, I believe, on the east side of San Jose. How do you like using the computers, the technology there? How does it work for you?
I love coming here. It's a great thing. You know, there's a whole bunch of chatter going on in the background. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's part of the fun is being here. It's like, you know, you got everybody else comparing notes and complaining after the race about how poorly they did or how well they did or who got in whose way. So it makes it really fun.
Oh, I believe it. I couldn't imagine being in a room with other sim racers there. I'm sure there's some very high stressful times between everybody, depending on how the races may go between one another. But that's really cool, and I know Jason's glad to have you there and appreciates you coming
Oh,
out and
well,
seeing him every week.
we're glad Jason's got this place set up and going, and really glad that you guys are here and making it something special.
Yeah, well, we're not here without you guys on the track. And before I let you go, I'd be remiss to you. Is there anybody you'd like to shout out, thank, give a blessing to here to end the interview?
Well, you know, a couple of guys here have been really helpful for like getting me going, and so between Jason and Tyler and you know a couple of the other guys here, the Kalen and Diego, who give me a hard time but also push me along. So I'm still at the back, but I'm creeping up on those guys. So you know, we'll see at the end of the season how I fare.
Yeah, we do see. And I'll leave it with one last question. We're going to Fuji next week. But with the remaining 4 races of the season, do you have any track you're particularly looking forward to going to?
You know what? None in particular. I think Mount Panorama might be the interesting one. I think that's coming up.
Yes, it is 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, so that should be a kind of a roller coaster, and you know, who knows what's going to happen with the tight confines and the downhill twisties there. So that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, Bathurst is always that's always an exciting track to go to. It's very similar to like today. There's not a whole lot of runoff room and nowhere to go when something bad happens. So,
Yeah.
Ken, congratulations on a well done race. Good job with the P19, and look forward to seeing you next week at Fuji.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you guys, and have a good one.
Thank you.
And that right there was Ken Glasser joining us in the commentary booth. And as I predicted, Skylar Vicroy, the SRG new kid, as Series M and Jason Kocher is starting to label him, not gonna join us here in the commentary booth to have a chat. And frankly, after the difficult race that he had here at Oran Park, I can't necessarily blame him. But Cannon, that was a barn burner of a race. We talked about a little bit, just not wet enough for those wet tires to really work. So it was a tough one for these drivers up and down the grid.
Yeah, it was. The drivers had their hands full the whole 20 minutes, start to finish. The rain was off and on, and I think they were kind of having to guess when the rain started showing up whether they needed to change the corners, and then when they would dry up, they'd start feeling a little more confident. And it was definitely a back and forth race with a lot of mix-ups, and a last lap spin by the leader in the Inter One Series really just changed the way the whole race ended up actually finishing.
And we've got a pretty good race coming up in the not too far off future here on SMB with the Fuji round coming up in 1 week's time. Here's all the stuff to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. As you've seen here tonight, you can catch the action from the Sim Racers Group Intermediate F4 Series on Wednesdays at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time. On Thursday nights, you can catch the action from the brand new Extreme Motorsports IndyCar Championship Series. Had a barn burner of a race at Portland 1 week ago, and looking to keep that momentum rolling tomorrow evening here on SMB. I'll be on the call with that, and that will be some fun racing action from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. Then come time for the weekends, we have got you covered with the Formula V Weekend Warriors on Saturdays at 3:20 p.m. Eastern. That racing is just about some of the best stuff I've ever seen. Hey, good story for all of you folks. One time, I did a Formula V broadcast right after being on the iRacing official Bathurst 12-hour show, and the clip from the Formula V broadcast was the one that ended up getting shared on the iRacing social media platform. So, hey, if you want to tune in to some of the best racing on the iRacing platform, happy to check out those Formula V shows. Those are usually some pretty good races. Then come time for Sundays, we have got you absolutely packed. The Formula Ford Weekend Warriors are on Saturdays at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, followed 2 hours later by the Spec Racer Fords at 3:45. But that doesn't even do it for the action on Sundays, as later on those evenings you can catch the action from XSLR. They're about to get the road, actually not the road section, the oval section, the 87 Cup cars. They're going to be having their first race at, I believe, Charlotte in the not too far off future. And hopefully all of you tuning into this broadcast here on SMB tonight will be able to catch all of that action in the coming days, the coming weeks, and the not too far off future here on SMB. Lots of good stuff to look forward to. Gives you a good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But as for this broadcast here this evening for round number 8 of the Sim Racers Group Intermediate F4 Championship at Oran Park, I think that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Mons, Kenan Miller joining me in the commentary booth, and Mike Braun doing a wonderful job working on the cameras in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.